Welcome back, everybody, to These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For. Lorenzo Fonzin here with
Kevin Horde.
How you doing, my man?
Doing well, buddy.
Moving right along, just trying to get out these Resistance episodes and catch up.
Yeah, playing a little catch up with the Resistance, but, there's been so much Star Wars stuff going on that it's kind of hard to keep up watching, much less sitting down, and talking about all this stuff. So
Right. Especially as we're heading to holiday season here, and it's just getting busier and busier. So let's get to it. We will be discussing Star Wars Resistance, The Relic Raiders. This is Season 2, Episode 7 of Star Wars Resistance. Original air date, November 17th, 2019. Right? That's what we're here for.
Yes, sir. That's it.
Just want to double check every time.
Correct.
You never know. I have this one as being directed by Brad Rao, written by Brandon Allman.
Yep.
That's
Correct
what I
and
got.
correct.
Shall I just get into the quick summary of it, and then we'll discuss afterwards?
Do it.
As always, spoiler alert, I will discuss the entire episode in my summarization here. So if you have not seen The Relic Raiders, that's again Season 2, Episode 7 of Star Wars Resistance. I'm going to describe it. You have been warned. All right, so we start the episode with Captain Doza sending Kaz, Tora, Freya, CB-23 on a supply run on Ashes Ree. Kel and Eila ask Kaz if they can come along, secretly, of course. Kaz allows them. They all arrive. Kaz drives a shuttle. Tora and Freya take their own Aces ships. And when they get to the village, it is deserted. Kel and Eila run off. The others go and find warning signs in the village. Let's see. Kel, Eila, Kaz find a temple of the Force. They run inside. They hear a voice and go after that voice. They, once inside this temple, enter yet another section of the temple. And then Kel and Eila get separated from Kaz. Kaz finds a relic, touches it, falls into a pit, and a woman shows up. We cut back to the shuttle where Freya and Tora are loading stuff onto it, but they're getting an alert about more ships approaching. Back in the pit with Kaz, a woman reveals that they are in an ancient Sith temple, which is inside the Jedi temple. We get CB-23 finding Kel and Eila. Cutting back to Kaz, he sets off another trap down in the pit. The woman is very angry. Kel and Eila show up and help Kaz and this woman. The woman takes the relic. Kaz sets off another trap, and the temple falls apart around them. Everybody runs on out of that temple. A blaster is heard in the distance as they get out of the temple, and it turns out the First Order has imprisoned Freya and Tora. The woman disappears. The First Order Raiders, as we're as they are introduced, they apprehend Kaz, Eila, and Kel. The woman reappears, activates the relic she picked up from inside the Sith temple. It kills the raiders. The rest of our crew run away far enough to not be affected by the activation of this relic. The relic was an ancient power source, explains the woman. The woman is named Mika Gray. They all head back to the Colossus together, and then Eila asks Mika Gray about the Force on the shuttle, and it leads Kaz to show some sort of visual reevaluation of his feeling of the Force, as earlier he explains that it's a myth and he didn't really quite believe in it. That is where we end this episode, and we cue fanfare.
Cue fanfare.
The one other note I will make is that the character Mika Gray is played by a Tootie Roche.
Yeah, did you recognize her name at all?
No, not at all. I did not look her up.
So I did. And she is most well known for being Patricia Richardson's sister on Home Improvement. So Jill Taylor's recurring sister.
How interesting.
Is Tootie
random.
Roche.
All right.
So how about that?
Very cool. Yeah. Here she is playing some relic raider.
Yep.
So
old creepy woman, I think is
with markings on her face.
What Kaz calls her.
Yep. So
I would say she is ambiguous in skin tone I don't know if she's like a lighter skin tone person that's tanned and wrinkly, or if she is a darker skin tone person that is just old.
Right.
I like that there doesn't need to be like a defining factor about this person other than battle hardened, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
I would say. And that would be about it. I like her nose ring. Yeah. It's nice.
I'm not gonna lie. As soon as the episode started and we get this mission of a supply run, I rolled my eyes a little bit.
I knew you would.
Of course, because of how much we've discussed, how many various supply or fuel or salvage runs we need to make for the Colossus, and the episode just starts right off with that.
Yeah, I think I read you the official description of this episode, which is, on a simple supply run, Kaz and friends discover something ancient and unexpected, and you just rolled your eyes and shook your head, and you were like, nope, nope, not looking forward to that one, not looking forward to that one. So, I'm eager to get through this one and find out what your final judgment is, but I would like to start with Freya.
Yes.
I like Freya. I like the character of Freya. I like the design of Freya. There's something a little bit elusive about her, maybe because she has like this vague Russian accent, and in American cinema, like, you can tell who the bad guy is going to be by the Russian accent. But Freya is not that. You know, she's a part of this team, and I think just with the choice of that depiction, it gives her like this air of mystery, like where did she come from? Because she's not, you know, she's not a holdover from the Empire. She doesn't really seem to align with like the Republic either. She's kind of this backwoods outcast. Not she came from like backwoods, but you know, like hiding in the Outer Rim, just wanting to be herself. Having her be more of a central character in this episode, I enjoyed.
Yeah, definitely. I would like to see other aces explored besides Tora and Hype for sure. And the idea of accents for at least the human characters in Star Wars has always been fascinating, especially the way Leia seems to traverse accents within just A New Hope.
Yeah.
She goes from American Standard to, I thought I smelled your foul stench on board.
Yeah, and I think that was later. I don't know if it was actually retconned, but I think it was explained as, you know, when she is kind of in the political atmosphere, she has that more British affectation, and when she's not Princess Leia, when she's just like Leia the rebellion general, she's more natural speech.
Right.
But I think what Carrie Fisher said about it is that she just kind of, as far as vocal affectation, was just like a sponge to those around her. So when you have Peter Cushing with this really grand royal speech pattern, she just kind of accidentally pulled that into her vocabulary in that time. And that's just kind of the way that it happened.
I'm trying to recall back. This was 7 or 8 years ago, but I saw her one-man show when she was touring around with it, Wishful Drinking. And she has a whole section on that specific speech. And she mentions that it was because like she had just gone to school in England or something like that. So she took on that accent herself. So it wasn't Peter Cushing specifically. It was just like being in England.
Right.
And so that's why the accent comes and goes. That's the real world explanation of it. And Wishful Drinking was recorded somewhere. It used to be on HBO Go or HBO for a while, but I don't know if it's still there. But that show is freaking hilarious. Anyways, that's beside the point. But I've always been now curious. Like, I think there was another explanation in universe of, you're right. Like, it's something about, there's like
it's like Diplo speech.
Right. It's like Diplo speech, but there's like, it's also like socioeconomic sort of too. Like the higher class citizens seem to have like that, what we call British affectation, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like standard American is just like middle class and under folk have that accent, right?
Right.
So
I wonder what podunk Midwestern
Right.
would...
and then, like, where, like, Freya's accent comes in, right?
Right.
Because accents amongst not only humans, but creatures as well is something we've discussed, especially regarding...
Absolutely. We talked about it a lot in the Clone Wars, man.
Right. But yeah, so especially, Watto's whatever accent.
Hey, what are you doing?
Right.
I just want the money.
So, but I agree. Freya, I would like to see these other characters definitely explored a lot more.
Yeah, I feel like we got a little bit of backstory out of Griff Halloran
Right.
recently during Live Fire. Because he was talking about his time with the Empire. So they're definitely not like Halloran-centric episodes and Freya-centric episodes, but to have them be like adjacent to like the main cast of characters on their little mission is nice.
Yes, I agree.
It's done
Just
well
like
enough that it's not like it's not a detour, but it just kind of pulls them in a little bit to let us get to know them a little better.
Yeah. Just making them more present in the story basically is all I really for sure need, right?
Yeah, so who's left? Bo Keevil? Is that it?
Bo Keevil, I think.
And then there was like the random Celestin that was present at like the celebration after Live Fire or something like that.
Yeah.
Not Live Fire. Hunt on Seltzer 3.
Right, when they got the food. When they killed the whatever it was called. I've already forgotten now.
Yeah. Yep.
That's
what it was.
Moving on to bringing characters into this, how do you feel about Kel and Eila popping back up? Because I'm not going to lie, I kind of forgot they existed.
That is my next note. And so the last episode we recorded, at the end, I said, hey, we're gonna re-meet, a character we've seen in the past. The children from Tehar are those that I was speaking of.
Right. And remember season 1 when we were discussing that there was going to be like this huge thing around them because like they were building this mystery about who they are and where they came from, and
especially Eila.
Right.
Because she had that weird like ability for like a minute.
That like weird psychic ability, right? Yeah. Like they threw these like little things out there, and then in this episode it's just like, hey, can we tag along? Sure, why not? And then
yeah, but then we definitely get like an info dump on them where they're like fucking chasing butterflies or something,
right?
And then Kaz gets mesmerized by the butterflies. Oh wow, it's so pretty. Hey, what is that? And it just looked like a kind of ruined old building to me, but I guess it was a temple, and Kel calls it out for being a force temple. And Eila says, reminds me of like the temples back home, but this one is way bigger. So is Tehar like a Dagobah or
a
Lothal where it has like force resonance?
There's still so little evidence for any of this at this point. Like
I know it's really weird, but or is just like the town, for lack of a better word, that they're from. Are they from like a force colony? Like there's something in their past that is force related that becomes evident. I mean, it's clear in this episode. The only way that it could be more clear is if they were like, do you remember before the First Order came in and we always practiced the Force at the Force Temple? Like, that's the only way it could be more explicit, Yeah.
I just don't know what these characters are doing anymore. I just don't have any hope that anything will come back and fully connect in any resonant way.
And I know you're saying that because you know that there's a finite number of episodes and there's certain things that they need to do before the end of this season/series.
Sort of. It's just also by virtue that I literally forgot these characters existed for a hot second.
Right.
Like if you last week asked me to name every character we've ever met on this show, ever.
That would be tough.
But I would forget about these two completely.
I forget Rucklin's name on a regular basis.
Oh yeah, Rucklin would be another one that I would always forget about. It's these guys.
He should be named like Frodo Malfoy.
Right, Frodo something. Yeah, Frodo Malfoy is good. But it's just because of these weird gaps that we're getting. And yes, the fact that there's a finite number of episodes and we're on number 7 and we're still dealing with supply runs.
Here's what I like about including them. Mm-hmm. I think they are the gateway to the Force for Resistance. And really up until this point, like we've heard talk about Kylo Ren, like the big Sith baddie or Sith substitute baddie of the sequel trilogy, right? Mm-hmm. We have seen Leia Organa, who we know is a Force user. But aside from that, we haven't had the Force, we haven't had Jedi, we haven't had any of that in this series up until this point. And I think these two characters, for some reason, are the Force magnet that is able to pull the Force into Resistance.
But I don't know why we need it in this show, though.
Fair enough.
I would prefer this to be like a straightforward spy espionage show, almost, right? With creatures and stuff set in the Star Wars universe.
Okay.
Right? Like,
I think we lost that opportunity long ago.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. But I just throwing these two characters back in this show, like I don't know what they're adding to the show overall. Like they add a little bit to this episode. Even in this episode, I'm still kind of meh about them being in this episode. But I don't know. Because
I'll get to it. I'll get to it at the end. I'm gonna write myself a note here. You please continue.
It's just almost like with Kaz's opinion on the Force, where he takes that sort of Han Solo approach, where he just isn't sure about it. He's heard about it, but to him, it's sort of like an urban legend sort of thing, right? At least A New Hope Han, right?
Right, for sure.
So I kind of almost would love a show that just takes a more pedestrian approach to the Star Wars universe and doesn't try to shoehorn in like Force references just to quote unquote remind us that it's a Star Wars thing, right? Like I don't think for something to be Star Wars that it needs to involve the Force, right? Like that has been done. We have been there.
Yeah, I can totally agree with you. But it is a pretty integral part of Star Wars.
Yes. As of the universe as at large, but I think individual stories can be told without needing to explicitly involve the Force, right?
Okay.
There are plenty of books and stuff that will, in comics, that will tell like an entire arc without a single Force user in it. And I think that's fine.
Maybe some ancient texts as well.
Yeah, just regular old fairy tales without Force shit.
I would say let's move on from the Force, but we really can't do that seeing as we're moving into a Force temple.
Right.
What confused me is like the comment of like a temple within a temple. Mm-hmm. I totally didn't get that. I just got like they're in the atrium and they move on and then like they go down a level and like shit changes. Like I didn't see like this division, but like ooh, a temple in a temple. Like no, it's just like the next.
Well, there is definitely like a separate structure that they walk into, and there's like that abrupt architecture change.
Okay.
Right? Because like they basically walk into what looks like a bigger version of the relic that Kaz tries to take.
Right.
Right? And then the woman herself explains it partway through the episode where there was a Sith temple that was there, and then like the Jedi light side users built
around
that to try and neutralize the negativity coming out of the Sith temple.
Okay, I totally missed that comment, but you explaining it gives me like this weird like Judaism, Catholicism, or Christianity thing.
Yeah, sort of.
That feels weird to me. Because like the Temple of Solomon was like built over another temple, but that's like built on sacred ground of like another thing, and like it's just like this compounded, convoluted thing where people continually argue over, you know, who has the rights to the sacredity of the location, and that just feels weird to me in this.
It's maybe less like that and more. I'm trying to think of a good example, but it's like, I don't know. It's like when a house is haunted and you send in the Catholic priest to purify that shit, right?
But instead of purifying it, they build like a church over it.
Yeah, they just straight up built a church around a house, right?
Okay.
So or it's like,
now I'm wanting like a Dan Brown novel about some type of thing like this, and I'm on board.
Dude, like, I don't know why this week of all weeks. I think it's because of like between Mandalorian and Fallen Order and stuff, like my brain is trying to like extend where else the Star Wars extended universe can go, right?
Like I said, man, there's a lot of new fucking Star Wars out there.
Right. And with Knives Out coming out as this week of recording, I saw an early screening on Friday, and I was like, I would love Rian Johnson to create an Agatha Christie / Clue, the movie version set in the Star Wars universe, right?
That'd be super awesome.
Like, there's a barge somewhere out in the middle of space, and a hut is dead on there, so they have to figure out who killed the hut and why.
See, some executive is going to push for this starts on the train that Han Solo robs of coaxium.
Right.
And it ends up crashing into Canto Bight.
Right. Something nuts. Just, I need genre. So this goes back to my conversation of not needing the Force for a thing to be Star Wars. Like, just a straightforward whodunit, or like a straightforward rom-com set in the Star Wars universe, you know?
Yeah, I'm good on that one, but I like the Cluedo idea.
No, I just need different genre movies. I need a John Wick style movie set in the Star Wars universe for sure, with laser guns.
Okay. I'm down.
So, you know, just especially the way Mandalorian has become sort of a samurai, just a straightforward samurai western, right?
Right.
You know, just take a genre and attack it from the Star Wars perspective, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyways, where was I going with this? Where did we start?
We were talking about the temple within a temple.
Temple within a temple, yeah.
And yeah,
we got fully lost in the religion of that thing.
So I'll drop a little tidbit here, and then we can get back on track and move forward. These warning signs that Torah reads, like the graffiti painted on the walls.
Yeah.
They say like beware evil, get away, something like that. It's not Orabesh, it's something else. So it's whatever written language of this planet, I guess. But it is not Arabesh. It's something separate. But it does look similar to there's writings inside the temple, right? I mean, there's like this,
a bit.
There's like this,
symbols.
There are the symbols, but I thought there was something else that I saw.
I didn't notice it.
Maybe not. Maybe that was all
that to memory.
Maybe that was all above surface, not subsurface. But yeah. So I guess that's that's it. That's I said, a little tidbit, and we'll move on from there.
Well, I'm still curious about like what this village was and where they went, and I think there's like a one-liner explanation of like the woman scared them off or something when she reactivated the temple or something like that.
She raised the temple, is what she said. And she said, when I raised the temple, the townsfolk ran away for fear of me releasing evil.
Sure. Great. Yeah. I mean, it just sounds like a reason to not animate a village, but sure.
I totally agree with you. Like, where did they go?
Right.
Are they coming back?
And if like they were a big enough community to have a supply, like if this was deemed a decent enough spot to make a supply run, the Colossus is running on limited options for sure, but it seems like these are like this is like the Oklahoma City of the Star Wars universe. Like
maybe
these are
like Topeka, Kansas. I don't know.
Right. Like these aren't people that are scared of like technology. Like, oh, what's that from the sky? Right.
Well, maybe they are.
I don't know. Like I don't. This village they landed in doesn't seem like a tribal Amazon village that like doesn't know what a helicopter is and starts throwing spears at it, right? Like,
yeah, I'll agree with that.
Right.
I do like how Doza was like, "Hey, here's our last $5. Go get us some double mint gum
right.
and some fucking corn syrup. We'll just water that shit down." And then also, equally, I like that Freya's like, "People gone. We need supplies. We take supplies.
We just take the supplies.
No one is here to pay. We just take what we need."
It's logical. I mean, it's very logical. I just like that the supplies throughout pretty much the rest of the episode is very inconsequential. It's definitely the simplest excuse in a script to get people to a place to get them to another place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So
it's just Tora and Freya loading up a bunch of shit, and Freya's pissed that Kaz isn't there. And meanwhile, he is meeting Mika Gray. What's your take on this lady? She's
another character, I guess. Like, I have no emotional attachment to her. I have nothing against her.
Do you think that we will see her in the future?
No.
I think we will see her she's a one and done, or you think she's...
I think she's a one and done in terms of like major story arc stuff. I think we'll see her around the Colossus the way for a while, like for like she'll be a background player.
Okay, like in Ma's Cantina or something.
Right. Like we'll see her at Aunt Z's Tavern, right?
That's what I meant.
Will she have... You're right.
Right.
So speciest. But I can't foresee a large arc with her in the future, but who knows? My prediction is no. That's my prediction based on nothing at this point. How do you feel about the First Order Raiders, as they're called?
The Relic Troopers?
Is that?
I think that's what they're called.
I wrote First
Relic
Order Raiders,
Troopers.
but I'm not sure if that's... I thought that's what she said. I could be very wrong. I'm always like while I'm watching the show, I'm always like kind of scribbling as we're going along, right? But they have a slightly different design to them. But again, I don't know what their purpose is.
I mean, their clothes are a little different, and they have a different helmet, and that's about it.
But why Raiders?
I mean,
like,
so this
like. What division of the First Order approves this?
The Spielbergian division is the one that approves this. So last week we had a Jurassic Park episode.
Yeah.
This week we have a complete Indiana Jones quadrilogy episode where we just pick little bits of Indiana Jones from start to finish, from... 83 to 2008, right?
Something like that, yeah.
There's little homages,
82.
shall we say, and it is what it is. The first time I watched it, I was like, all right, we're going Indiana Jones in the Star Wars universe, with Indiana Jones being a not character that we've met before, and that's cool. So yeah, like the storyline is that the Nazis are digging up relics in the desert for the Fuhrer. I mean, the Relic Raiders are going around finding Sith artifacts, Jedi artifacts, Force artifacts,
for Supreme Leader.
For Supreme Leader Snoke. Yes. I do like that Mika Gray isn't in this for fortune and glory like Indiana Jones. Mm-hmm. She is in this to make sure that the relics don't get in the hands of Snoke.
Yeah. She's not there to win, per se. She's there to make sure the other side doesn't win.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Right?
And she uses, like, this relic that she finds. I totally thought this was going to be a Sith holocron.
I thought it was, too, for a second.
And then it's just a Ark of the Covenant lightning blast thing.
Right.
That
just the lightning blast, no melty face.
Right. That kills...
Or at least not that we can see.
They could have melted their faces under their helmets. We don't know for
Not
sure.
that we can see. Yeah.
Shoots lightning out, kills the bad guys... And then she picks it up later and looks at it and does the Luke Saber lightsaber toss over the shoulder. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, this is done.
Because it's been exhausted.
Pitches
right?
it away.
Is weird to me because she explains that it's like a power source, but it got spent up. But then what the hell is this relic then?
It's silly.
Like, I don't... yeah. I agree. I don't understand what this whole thing is at all.
Yeah, as far as the relic troopers, I think... if this is the only time we will ever see them, it's a distracting bit of, hey, new stormtroopers. Whereas it could just be any of the other fucking stormtroopers that we've seen. Right. You know, so...
Because, like, also, what are they doing there? Like, I think she kind of explains that they're also hunting relics.
That's like, exactly what they're doing. And I think they're, like, on her trail.
Right.
Which tells me that, like, she and Snoke have, like, some old connection.
Yeah, does it?
It does to me because, like, she knows what he would be going after, and she's beating his guys to the finish line.
I guess.
I don't think that that's the case, but, like, otherwise she's just really lucky because there's, like... 100 billion fucking planets in the Star Wars universe.
Right.
And she just happens to get to this one that she's been looking for 2.5 years right before
Snoke's team gets there.
Yeah.
And also, you bring up a good point. Is she doing this alone? Like are there other relic raiders out there trying to also prevent other...
They're like Indiana Jones and Belloc.
Right.
Like, Snoke is Belloc. She is Indiana Jones. Kaz then would be, like, a combination of...
Like, Mutt?
Marcus and... I don't even know.
Right. I don't know.
Anyway.
Yeah.
That's kind of my take on these guys. Like, no, they're not necessary. They look cool.
Definitely not.
I don't think they were necessary in this story at all.
Nope.
We could have gone to the Sith and Jedi temples and had all the booby traps that Kaz gets himself in. He's kind of the short round, I guess, of this episode.
He is the short round of this episode. That makes sense. Except short round wouldn't... No, he's the Kate Capshaw.
Okay.
He's the, what's her name? I forgot her name in the movie.
Willie.
In Temple of Doom. Huh?
Willie.
Is that her name?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember that. That's really bad.
She's from Missouri.
I just don't like that character. That's why. Despite the fact that she's still married to Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, because of that movie.
But that would be my major complaint about this episode. Like, it was... funny here and there, but the fact that Kaz continually keeps setting off so many
the same
traps.
Type of booby traps. And they're like, I'm like, dude, there's a square on the floor. He's gonna step on it.
Step on it. Right.
He did it.
And then he does it again.
It annoyed me that he didn't get his flashlight out until BB-8 was gone.
Right.
I'm like, you had a flashlight the whole time, because I can understand, like, maybe he's not seeing the stuff on the floor in front of him because BB-8's head's on a swivel and his light is looking wherever BB-8 is looking, right?
Right.
And then maybe Kaz would not see something, but he had a freaking flashlight the entire time.
Right. Yeah. I got nothing for that. It's weird humor that's definitely aimed towards a younger audience than you and I.
But we definitely could have gone from the temples to back to the Colossus. Instead, we're introduced to these relic troopers. Like, they catch up with what's her name, Miss Gray,
Freya
Mika Gray.
Tora? What? Mika Gray? Yeah.
Yeah. They catch up with Mika Gray. They take Freya and Tora hostage. This feels like the beginning of, like, the next part of the story, but there's only like 6 minutes left in the episode.
I think even less than that at this point.
Yeah, maybe 4 minutes left, and it's like real quick to the end. And I feel like they should have either had, like, you know, this could be like a 2-part episode arc, or just eliminate these guys unless they play some role in the future.
They won't.
The only thing
that's my negative review of, or my negative, not review, negative outlook.
Yeah.
On the
pessimistic attitude.
Yeah, towards these Raider troopers.
They are pretty erroneous. Here's a question for you, though. They get killed by this lightning. Earlier in the episode, Kaz steps on something on the floor and takes a lightning bolt straight to his head.
Right.
And all he does is, like, fall down, and then he's like, ooh, I don't feel so good, and gets back up and, like, goes on his way. Is this an indication that there's something special about Kaz, or is this just an inconsistency in the lightning attack of this episode?
That one, the second one.
Okay.
Definitely the second one. Because they do, like, the very, very cartoony thing, whereas Kaz gets back up, like, he still keeps sparking a little bit, and he, like, does, like, the Simpsons, like, like,
right,
judder thing.
Like, you might as well be able to see his Scooby-Doo skeleton on the inside.
Yes, it's that thing. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So, and then that's when he sets off the next booby trap right after that, because it's Kaz.
Okay. So there's no connection between lightning attacks?
Not directly, not in strength, I don't think. I think they're just only different booby traps that
because they're from the same, like, power source.
Right.
Okay.
Or whatever. Gotcha. Same technology being used in different applications, right?
Okay.
Yeah. It's like the difference between getting shocked by, like, I don't know, like just getting zapped by, like, a hairdryer versus, like, sticking a fork in the wall.
It's still 110 volts. It is what it is.
Right. But you know what I mean? Like, or it's like licking a 9-volt versus sticking.
There we go.
Your finger in the wall socket.
Yeah.
So
there we go.
Yeah. So it's that thingy, which
My
doesn't make sense because there's the full power of the temple versus the one relic, but
versus
whatever.
The battery of the temple.
Yeah.
Well, it's got the battery has to power all of the lights.
Are we sure that relic is what powered the rest of the temple, though?
No.
Yeah. See, none of this makes any sense.
So does the temple power the battery? And
I don't know.
They converse.
Because continuing on, what powers the Jedi Temple?
The Sith Temple.
What's the infrastructure of the Jedi Temple around? Are they connected?
It's on the surface and it's open air, dude.
Are they connected infrastructures, or is it like a this is a very, I don't know why this is what I can think of, but it's the only example I can think of, but Expedition Everest at Animal Kingdom in Walt Disney World.
Okay.
There's a roller coaster inside of a mountain, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's an animatronic that is also inside of that mountain.
Mm-hmm.
The roller coaster and the mountain do not touch. They are two separate structures.
Uh-huh.
And also the animatronic of the Yeti that is inside that is on its own third separate structure, because they knew that if the three of them touched, then, like, the rattles of the roller coaster would damage the structure of the mountain over time.
Yes. in Earth physics. In Star Wars physics, we have an entire planet that is one big city. So what happened here is that buildings were built on the surface, and then eventually they ran out of land. Other buildings were built on top of these buildings that had buildings built on top of those buildings.
Right.
So eventually, what has to have happened is that there's like a structure around Coruscant that is independent from anything that is actually attached.
It's just free floating outside of the other one.
I'm guessing, and it's kind of held together by gravity, and because the stuff all the way at the bottom can't be strong enough to hold things that are like miles high. So my point is that this Jedi temple is literally built on top of the Sith temple.
But not a part of. Or is it?
No, it's not a part of.
Right. So, back to Coruscant. You know how an arch is like thanks to the gravity, like arches are super powerful, like they're super sound structures?
I am from St. Louis. I know a little bit about arches.
Yes, you would know about arches.
They go up and they go down.
So if you just build like
there's windows
super
at the top.
wide arch, say about bigger than the circumference of said planet.
You're talking about a ring.
Just a giant ring? Would that just self-support itself around?
I mean, Saturn tells us yes.
Does it? I mean, those are microparticles that aren't connected to each other.
So get some glue.
The busted up moon that never formed, basically, around Saturn.
I would have to imagine that would you be able to pull this engineering feat off? Theoretically, there may be some wobble to it, which I'm guessing would compromise the integrity of the structure, but possibly, yes.
Because also gravity isn't uniform around Earth either. You know, gravity is stronger and lighter in certain areas, and that's beyond my comprehension of
And that was
science
the understanding magic that I got back in the 80s when Back to the Future 2 came out, and there was hoverboards in California, because there was a documentary that I watched that showed how that worked and that gravity was different. And I was bummed that I lived in the Midwest.
I like how that's your takeaway from Back to the Future Part 2.
Hoverboards, man. Not the ones with wheels, the ones without.
Okay, so we know nothing basically about Jedi and this Jedi and Sith temple after this episode, right? Is that basically fair to say?
Yeah, we've been introduced to it, and we have learned information up to the lightning blast, and that's it. Okay. There is no future history of it.
Yeah, we know nothing about this. And okay, so
my last question is Eila and the Force.
That's funny. I was about to ask you about that too. That's literally what I was headed towards.
We're on the same page then. So is she a Force user? Is she not a Force user? Is she a Force sensitive maybe?
I will say at least Force sensitive based on everything we've seen with her.
Yeah.
Like maybe
do you think Kel
stronger
is
than
as well?
Chirrut? Huh?
Do you think Kel is as well?
I have less evidence for him, but mainly because we get like that weird like aside of Eila like staring into the distance and spewing some shit, right?
Yeah, I like that you bring up Chirrut, like, because he's like a follower of the Wills,
right?
So I guess that opens up the possibility for Eila to go down that road as well. I don't know how much more we're gonna find out about these two, but I would like to find out more. And
I would too, but I agree with you. I don't think we will.
I actually have a curiosity of whether Rose and her sister Paige are from Tehar.
Ew. I don't know.
Because Rose talks about how she witnessed the First Order come in and destroy her world, right? Take everything from her. And I think she's relatively new to The Resistance.
Rose? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I think so.
I've had a question like when we met the children of Tehar in season 1, and then like Eila had this weird thing a couple episodes after that where she had like these visions or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching The Last Jedi, and I was like, you know what? Like, are Rose and her sister like from maybe definitely not like the same town? It's not like she'd be like, yo, Ayla, Kel, what's up? How you guys been? But like, from the same planet,
the same circles.
Yeah.
I don't know. There is a book that covers Rose's history, right?
I don't know, and
like
I haven't
leading up
looked
to Last
into
Jedi. I think it's one of those like Path to Last Jedi books or whatever they're called, right?
Mm-hmm.
The road to all of this stuff.
Yeah.
I think there was one that covers Rose and Paige briefly.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna look into that, and I will try to report back.
Yeah, definitely look into that, because I know one of the other like spin-off ideas for Disney Plus for a hot second, very light rumor mill stuff, like no hard evidence whatsoever, but Rose was like one of the names getting kicked around of potentially getting her own spin-off. You know, like Cassian Andor is a hard confirmation that there's a show being developed around him, at least.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Cassian and Obi-Wan, those are like the two other shows besides Mandalorian that we are fully aware of for Disney Plus development. But yeah, Rose was one of those just lightly getting tossed around in the interwebs. But you know, I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
Well, moving past Disney Plus, back around to Star Wars Resistance.
Mm-hmm.
What do you give this one? Thumbs up, thumbs down? What do you think?
I'm gonna sound like a broken record. I've been split on a lot of these episodes, or hovering in the middle. I didn't hate this episode. I didn't like it either. So, but this one falls on just on thumbs down.
Okay.
You know, it's just one of those episodes where I just don't care, honestly.
Okay.
You know, like I said, it's I don't hate it, but I feel like when we do our season wrap up and we start talking about everything, I feel like this is going to be one of those episodes that I completely forget existed ever.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's, you know, it's not an offensively bad episode or anything like that. It's just, again, I think there's the other litmus I keep bringing up week after week after week is that, you know, this is not an episode that like proves to me that this is the show that like I need to go recommend to my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is not a show at this point that I would recommend to even the biggest Star Wars fan. Right? Like my buddy Greg, who you've met.
Right.
You know, I mentioned to him, I'm like, bro, I'm watching Resistance and I'm so bloody bored right now. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So
this wouldn't be a show that you would have a conversation about with some random dude in line on cue for something at a Star Wars celebration.
If given Star Wars Celebration, just because of that atmosphere, yes.
Well, I just bring that up because like when the night that you and I met each other, you were like, dude, you got to watch Rebels. And I'm like, dude, you got to watch Clone Wars. And like that was a beginning conversation between the two of us.
The beginning conversation of this would be like, yo, do you watch Resistance and do you hate it as much as I do?
Gotcha.
See, like, and it hate's maybe a strong word. It's just major disappointment, shall we say? Is that better or worse? I don't know.
I know. Better?
Because here,
equal? I'm not really sure.
Right, because like here's the thing. Like I think between what we've covered on Clone Wars, I think you've seen me come around to really enjoying the later seasons, and that's how I've always felt about Clone Wars. Right.
Yep.
I've always known like season one for sure, and then like season 2 was fairly rough. Season 1 to me is rough.
Mm-hmm.
But there's enough in Clone Wars that I see its value, and I see its place in the greater Star Wars universe. It definitely adds to the universe as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
As of right now, there is nothing here.
And
this episode
I really feel like you are tainted by the knowledge of the imminent end of this show. And
not even. It's just like this episode in particular. We get to a Jedi temple, and then we get to a Sith temple inside of the Jedi temple, and on paper that sounds like really cool shit. And then it just does nothing with all of that. It adds nothing to anything. It adds nothing to Resistance. It adds nothing to any sort of lore. And I'm not saying it perhaps needs to. It's also just not exciting past those reveals.
Okay, so here's where I will disagree with you. Earlier we were talking about what Eila's point is in this episode. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna just throw my my judgment out there. This one does get a thumbs up for me, and it does. That thumbs up does come from this Force stuff that happens, kind of Act 2, right? But here's the note that I wrote for myself, and that is that Eila and Kel and like their journey to seeing this other temple that excuse me, that they are semi-familiar with from like their home planet, but then there's like another layer to it that is like the Sith temple underneath, and the end result of coming through and meeting this lady, and Eila talks to her and she's like, yo, what about the Force? And Mika says, I can tell you that it's not for the Jedi and it's not for the Sith. Like, the Force means something different to all of us, and it's something different inside each of us, which is really a rehash of like The Last Jedi. But in Kaz seeing all of this happening, their reason for being in this episode is to like open Kaz's eyes a little more, because slowly he's like learning things as he goes throughout the season. We've already seen him be a little bit more competent. I think now he is going to be like a little more understanding of like,
I get what you're getting at. I just think I just think those last 60 seconds of this episode where we get all of that, that Kaz reevaluation and Eila asking about the Force, it does not justify the previous 21 minutes of getting to that.
So what if we took out the Relic troopers and we used that time to kind of build on that last 60 seconds and give it more meaning, give it more
it's not
more
even
structure
that. It's just
to it?
The lead up to that,
right?
It's not a through line for me. It doesn't anything. What we have seen in those previous 21 minutes, I don't understand where Kaz's reevaluation of the Force comes from. There's nothing about like that'd be like me going to Notre Dame and being like, maybe. Full disclosure, I'm not Christian by whatever, right? But like walking out of there, like seeing or in its previous before it burned state, right? But like, you know, seeing pretty windows and then going, yes, I think maybe there is a God. Right? You see what I'm saying? Like, that's not to discount the power people might see in religious iconography and stuff like that. But
I feel like it would be more if you went to Notre Dame, but then you went down in the basement and then some crazy like wizard spiritual shit happened, and then you came out and
but here's the thing. Yes, if fucking weird wizard shit happened in the basement, yes, but that's not what happened in this episode.
Okay. Fair enough.
Right? That's what I'm getting at, right? It'd be one thing if they had committed more. Maybe if they had committed more to what happens when that relic gets activated. But there's
like
nothing
if there was
that
actually
happens.
some Force stuff. It's not people talking about Christianity. It was like some actual Christianity happening.
Right. But essentially what happens is they get electrocuted. That is nothing outside of the norm of normal Star Wars shit. That's nothing out of the norm of our world almost, right? Like,
well, maybe Kaz thinks because like he got electrocuted and he lived, maybe there's something to this Force thing. Just saying.
But no. But yeah, so like that's where my disconnect with this episode comes from. If we are to get Kaz reevaluating his relationship to the Force, which from our viewership standpoint we know is a thing, but he doubts it. He doubts its existence, right? And I don't blame his doubt. I understand his doubt. I understand his character's viewpoint of it. But for him to sit there at the end of this episode and go, is there something out there? Where does that come from in this episode, right? Like, okay, all these booby traps that happen other than like the electrical, like they're all physical in some form. Like floors are moving or whatever, right? Doors are shutting. Like,
we get a little Tom's Twister with like a concrete drill bit coming up from the floor.
Right. Yeah, like, you know, like we get a gravitron. Like there's nothing here that seems mystical enough. Like, and I'm not saying he needs, again, like it's not like what you said. We don't need somebody coming out and being like, "Yo, Kaz, the Force is real," right? But just something, just a little something weird, right? Like, so like at the end of Raiders where a fucking dude's face melts off, right? You know, like that would make me believe.
Right, like, hey, Marion, close your eyes. Like, don't witness this.
Yeah, don't fucking look at this or your face will melt off, right?
And it's that saved him. Hey, fair enough, man.
Right.
So your argument is very compelling and well crafted and could definitely sway my opinion.
Right.
Had I not already formulated my opinion.
No worries.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no worries. But like, I think that comes to my disappointment with this episode in particular, right? Like it really tries to hammer a point down right at the end, but I don't know where that point came from. Like it's like they formulated that point and then back engineered an episode without really putting any effort into it, which is really harsh because I know how hard it is to write these things. But
right,
like it's this one in particular just really bothered me more because like of the level of promise versus what was delivered, right?
Okay. Well, all that being said, boil this down to one word.
I don't know. I'm trying to think now.
The only thing that I can think of is that most of this episode is just like an homage to something else.
Right.
Maybe
I'm gonna put empty. This episode's empty.
Okay. I was gonna say, from like your perspective, like,
Or soulless.
Wow. Wow. You want to go with soulless or empty?
I'm gonna go soulless just based on the religious iconography we've been geared towards here towards the end here.
All right.
Because it's weird. Like it tries to have it both ways, man. It's like, oh look, Kaz keeps getting himself in trouble again, but he's gonna have deep religious like existential breakdowns about whether or not the Force is real. Like,
man, you're bringing me down, dude. We gotta close this one out. I gotta go think happy thoughts and watch fucking Peter Pan or something.
Right, but that's this is where and I don't mean to continually shit on this show. I legitimately want this show to be great and entertaining and pull me in the way Rebels did, like, and the way Clone Wars ends up pulling me in. And then we get an episode like this.
Well, hopefully next week will be different for you.
I'll see.
That is Rendezvous Point.
Rendezvous Point.
But before we can rendezvous, I think we should throw a couple shouts out to some fellow nerds. We got Kevin on Twitter. They call me K-Dub. He's our graphic artist. And then Lindsay over at strangefantasymusic@gmail.com took care of our intro outro music. And we got at Blue the Beard, our website guy. So thanks to all of them. Lorenzo, thanks to you.
Of course.
I've been Kevin.
Lorenzo here.
These aren't the nerds you're looking for.
Bye-bye.